How's it going, ladies and gentlemen? I wanted to show you what Mega Man 64 looks like output from an actual Nintendo 64 in composite video mode with one of the converters that converts composite video to HDMI. And this HDMI output is going directly into a capture card that receives HDMI input perfectly fine. This is what Mega Man 64 looks like on the Nintendo 64 using composite output. As you can tell, the frame rate is a lot lower. The visual fidelity is a lot lower than the PlayStation 1 version. But this is to kind of give you a baseline of what to expect if you're playing this game on an actual Nintendo 64. This is the same game, same physical cartridge, plugged into an Analogue 3D, and right off the bat you can notice some tremendous differences. For one, if I didn't tell you that this was the Mega Man 64 version of the game, you'd think I'm playing on a PlayStation emulator because of how sharp the textures are. No anti-aliasing, and no frame rate drops. This is basically playing at the full 60. I believe it's the full 60. Might actually be 30. Can't tell for certain. It's a world of a difference how much this Analogue 3D is able to clean up the image and upscale it. This is a 1080p signal over HDMI directly from the FPGA. So we're not doing any analog to digital conversion. However, the developers developed this core. They're able to tap the exact frame buffer and produce an image this clean looking. Here are some of the under the hood settings to show you what I'm doing. I'm going to boot up the game, forcing original hardware. De-blur off. Disable texture filtering is off. Disable anti-aliasing is off. And I'm going to go ahead and boot that up. Mega Man 64 play cartridge. And we're going to see what that looks like.
Good luck!
Alright, as you can tell, the frame rate is back to what it's like on the Nintendo 64, as if it were exact hardware. Goodness, it looks even lower than 20. It's got to be 18 or 15. But even then, using the Analogue 3D, I'm able to get a very clean image, but as you can tell, the textures on the ground are filtered. It looks like they're scaled up twice their size and blurred. And the edges between 3D objects in this world are anti-aliased. You can kind of see by looking at the edge of the mountain and the sky, there's a little bit of, how do I explain that? The edges are no longer rough, they are blurred. You can kind of see where the pixels go from half brown to half blue. But that is the default behavior of the Nintendo 64. And I'm going to go into the menu right here. I'm actually going to do this one more time. I'm going to back out of it, and I'm going to press Start and Z at the same time to kind of show you what's happening as I toggle them. If I go to display mode, not display mode, excuse me, hardware, and then de-blur, see one of the effects is that the image kind of gets a little bit more sharp, and I'm not sure if this is the fault of Nintendo purposely drawing in between pixels or shifting the image so that the image kind of sits in between pixels and you get this blur effect. That's what kind of appears to be going on. It looks like without the de-blur option, everything on the screen is blurred. Without the de-blur, or if I enable de-blur, everything looks a tad bit sharper. And if I go to disable texture filtering, right away you can already see the ground clears up. It looks a lot like a PlayStation 1 without any texture filtering. So if I toggle between the two, you can kind of see what's happening with the trees and the ground. This looks a lot like PlayStation 1. Now, if I do one more thing, pay attention to either the mountain in the top left of the image, where the mountain meets the sky, or Mega Man's blue armor and where the grass meet. This is the hard edge between two different 3D objects. This is not related to the texture, but rather the technique of softening the edges between 3D objects. Pay attention. As I toggle it on and off, I am disabling anti-aliasing, which again makes it look more like a PlayStation 1. And right here, looking more like an N64 with anti-aliasing, softening the hard edges. I leave it on and back out. Of course, the frame rate hasn't changed because I am forcing original hardware emulation and not taking advantage of the overclock mode, which I would like to show you. So let's go ahead and do that now. I'm going to go ahead and back out of the game. Quit cartridge, configure, and I'm going to do not force original hardware, so that's toggled off, and the overclock is set to unleashed. Now if I back out and I play, speed through the menus here.
Good luck.
All right. Full frame rate. Additionally, this also allows applying overlay filters that change the final image output to emulate things like CRTs, PVMs. So let's check that out. If I press Start and Z at the same time, we access the menu and we go to display mode. And we can set this all the way, one more. Oh, it's actually BVM and PVM. I thought PVM was first. We have a couple options that kind of emulate the scan lines of these different tube technologies. I don't really see much of a difference between all these. It looks like PVM is a little blurrier in the horizontal direction. But again, there's a lot of different options that you can play with. I am not an expert in these options. These are just things that if you, as a regular consumer just like me, were to play with, you can see what looks best. But if I leave it at BVM, and I say professional, and I have edge overshoot on, edge hardness hard, all these settings just like that, it looks like I'm playing on a CRT or a tube television or a BVM. And it looks great. It looks phenomenal. So I just wanted to thank you guys for sticking with me so long, and I hope that this little overview gave you a rough idea, or a good idea, of what the Analogue 3D is doing. And this is all on a physical cartridge. I took out the cartridge from my Nintendo 64 and I popped it right into the Analogue 3D. And I am showing you this, that there's no gimmick, there's no emulator, at least a software emulator. This is a hardware emulator. And this is complete 100% hardware solution to emulating your actual physical copy, your physical library of Nintendo 64.